Welcome, everyone. We are excited to have you join us for today's webinar on Integrated Marketing Communications with Diane Law. My name is Paul Cotter, and I'm a Product Marketing Manager here at Stukent, and I get to be your host today. We're really excited for this webinar, and before we get started, I want to chat with you just a little bit about our format today. We really want to encourage you to engage with us. Use the chat function on the side of your screen. Chat in questions. We're going to have polls during the event that you can respond to. And at any time, you can write questions in there. And at the end of the event, we'll have a live Q&A session. So go ahead and start out and fill out a chat and tell us where you're watching from today. Tell us which school you're teaching from. And you know what? It's the last week of July. So summer vacation is almost over. So chat in, when does your semester start? Is there one fun thing that you're still trying to squeeze in before the new semester begins? So it looks like we have Jerry from Orlando, Florida. He's at Stetson University. We have Lisa from Blacksburg, Virginia. Mary from Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego. She's teaching this summer and loving it, so no summer vacation for you. Donna is here from Long Island, New York. Frank from Boise State University. Frank, we're in Idaho also, so we're very close. Wayne is from Lowell, Massachusetts. Oh, from high school. Okay, there you go. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for chatting in. Keep that chat going. At any time, if you have a question for Diane, or for any of us, just chat that in and we'll save that for the end and we'll address that at the end. So today we are coming to you live from Stukent headquarters in Idaho Falls, Idaho. And of all places, I'm standing in a hallway in our stairwell. And I chose to stand in this location because we have this amazing mural right here of an astronaut. I want to talk a little bit about what the astronaut represents for us here at Stukent. The astronaut represents exploration, doing things that no one has done before, going places where no one has gone before. And that's what we want to do here at Stukent. We are taking courseware and simulations to places where they've never gone before. Our mission is to help educators, help students, help the world. And we do that through offering and creating amazing courseware and first in the world simulations. And we've been really busy this year doing this. And we want you to blast off with us. We want you to get on this rocket ship with us as we go all the way to the moon. This year, we've launched over 15 products here at Stukent. Some of them include Introduction to Business, Name, Image, and Likeness, Sports Marketing, Introduction to Entrepreneurship, Business Communications, Personal Finance Essentials, Content Marketing, Crisis Communications, and we've even launched new simulations for Media Planning, Services Marketing, and Mimic SEO. In addition to all these new products, we have done new versions of our flagship products, Mimic Pro and Mimic Social. But there's still lots more to come this year. This year, we'll be introducing supply chain management, supply chain logistics and transportation, public speaking, advanced professional selling, brand management, and more. So what we want you to do is we want you to always be checking our event page, because on that event page, we have a list of everything that we're offering and everything that's coming up. Our next event that's coming up will be on August 19th, and it's our Stukent Digital Summit. That summit is specifically for advertising and communication instructors. So be sure to join us for that event. So today, like I said, we are here for integrated marketing communications. And I'm excited for us to discuss the insights and exercises and best practices found in this courseware. This cutting edge courseware shows students how to build a complete and cohesive marketing program. I want to start out today by showing you a great video that our video team put together that highlights a little bit of what this courseware entails.
If you teach marketing, you know how difficult it is to stay on top of industry trends, create unified communication strategies, and to find up-to-date material that provides insights on how to combine diverse and emerging marketing methods into a single campaign. Introducing Integrated Marketing Communications, Building the Brand. This innovative courseware is authored by Diane Law, a senior marketing executive, consultant, entrepreneur, educator, and author. With features that are easy to implement in the classroom, this courseware includes engaging assignments that make up a semester-long project, lesson plans, auto-graded quizzes, and more. Students will create marketing messages that are consistent across all channels and incorporate methods such as advertising, direct marketing, and social media. Students will also gain practical insights into how to segment the market, develop creative strategies and briefs, select a communications mix, and evaluate the effectiveness of an integrated marketing campaign. This courseware pairs with the Mimic IMC simulation, which gives students hands-on experience as a marketing manager at Bowie Supply Co., a fictitious bag company. So teach your students to capitalize on all the modern marketing tools at their disposal with Integrated Marketing Communications, Building the Brand. Fill out the form on this page to get free instructor access to this courseware, including a full suite of educator and student resources.
Wasn't that a great video? I apologize if there was a little delay. I forgot to mute my volume there for the first part of the video, but we'll be sure and send that out in an email to all of you so that you can see that in its entirety. I do want to encourage you for attending this event today. We'd like to give you a gift, and what we want to do is we want to give you instructor access to this courseware. So there's a link that popped up on your screen. Click that link right now and just fill out. You're basically just entering that you're an instructor and your email address and where you teach. And from that, we will send you and get you access so that you can have a free copy of this course where you can see the syllabus, you can see the assignments, the quizzes, the ebook, everything. So please do that. Take the time to do that, and so that you can enjoy that. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn the time over to Diane Law. Diane is the author of our courseware, Integrated Marketing Communication. Diane, if you want to come onto the screen, then we will turn the time over to you.
Okay, there we are.
Great, welcome,
well, welcome
Diane.
Everyone. And thank you for that great introduction, Paul, and explanation of the astronaut. I thought it was a great analogy of what Stu Kent is doing. So I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar on integrated marketing communications. Just to give you a little bit of background about me, I actually come out of the business world. I spent 35 years in marketing, mostly marketing communications, but also some product marketing for technology companies, working in Silicon Graphics, working for Cisco Systems, Fujitsu, so various different types of technology companies in Silicon Valley. And one of the things that I've learned all these years is that there's a definite disconnect between what students are learning and coming out of college with and what businesses are expecting from those students. And, you know, I've experienced it, and I'm sure that we all have situations where we can think about, well, we've either experienced it ourselves or someone that we know has had that experience. And that's really what drove me to develop this course, which I actually taught at Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego for several years. So let's get started on a little bit of background about the course and how you might be able to utilize this in your classrooms. Okay, so why is this now? Well, I gave a little bit of a background on it, is that there's this disconnect. It's between what do we as business owners look for, and what do we as educators provide to students when they're coming out of school. There's that disconnect. I sat on a committee for many years in San Diego on the San Diego Economic Development Corporation, which is an organization that wants to keep businesses within the community. And there's an organization like that in almost every city across the United States. And one of the things that we used to talk about is exactly this. We would have representatives from businesses, large and small, as well as from universities. And this was always one of the key discussion points that were brought up, is that businesses didn't feel students had the capabilities to do the jobs when they're coming out, yet these colleges felt that they were providing the right type of education. So there was a disconnect. And what this course is trying to do is to try to help to bring that together. So, all right. So back in 2018, there was a poll that was done, okay, that 32,000 students from about 43 four-year universities, only about a third of them felt that they graduated with the skills needed to be successful in the workplace. That only tells us where's the disconnect. Is it the fact that we as educators aren't giving them the skills, or are businesses not telling us, what they really need? What's driving this disconnect? So we need to figure this out. So that was in 2018. So I want to run a little poll right now. What percentage of students feel that they will never use the skills they learned in college? What percentage of students today feel that way? If you could just take a minute and answer the poll, I'd like to see what your responses are before we move on and find out what a more recent study has told us. Let's take a couple of minutes. Okay, so let's see. We've got 54% seems to be one, 46, 35. Okay. All right, about 47% of you say it's 54%. Okay, so let's go on. So as of last year, a Cengage study that was done of 1,600 college graduates, 46% of those students felt they never used the skills they learned in college on a daily basis or only used them occasionally. And 50% don't apply for a position because they feel they're underqualified. Okay. And 21% of those graduates felt that college did not teach them the skills needed to secure the job. Okay. There's a disconnect, and we've got to try to figure that out. And this is one of the things that I feel Stu Kent is working really hard to do, is to help fill that gap. And that's what I'm trying to do with my course, Integrated Marketing Communications. So next question for you. Another poll we're going to run here. Is this an education issue or a business issue? Is it both or neither? All right. We look like, okay. So looks like about over 80% of you, almost 90% of you feel that it's both. And I would agree with you. It is both. Educators need to understand what's going on currently in the market environment in order to be able to develop a course and to create a course that will give students the skills that they need to be able to walk out the door with and actually secure a job. Also, businesses need to be more distinct in what they're looking for. They have to be clearly articulating what are they looking for in a job and what they're looking for that individual to be able to do. And if you get those two together, you're going to start to solve that problem that students are struggling with. And this may be one of the things that creates problems with students not being sure about what they actually want to do when they get out, because it's not really clear. So let's continue on now and give you a little bit of background on the courseware. So how does this courseware actually address this issue? This courseware was designed to give students the opportunity to develop, execute, and actually measure an actual marketing campaign for a company. The way this course was designed is for we as educators to go out and find organizations within our local communities, and I guarantee you they're out there, that you can actually go and have them come into your classroom and represent their company, give the students a little bit of background of their company, and the students will create marketing campaigns for them. There's a lot of small, especially small organizations that don't have a lot of marketing, resources. We're all struggling for resources right now. And there's a lot of companies that would be really look forward to working with students to do that. And it gives them the opportunity to learn how to actually get something done. It provides the students that opportunity. So what do the students actually have to do? Well, how I designed this course is that you get companies, you go find companies, and it can be a company in any type of industry. Because as we all know, marketing is really the same across most businesses, okay? What changes is the type of business, the message that you're going to use, and maybe the different types of options that you have on how you're going to market. But a campaign can be run for any business. So you find a couple of businesses, and I always recommend using more than just one business, because this gives students an opportunity to look at things and maybe work with a type of business that they're maybe interested in. So maybe find an organization that might be a regular industrial business to business organization. Find maybe one that might be just a more retail organization, and a nonprofit, because nonprofits are another organization that really need to have campaigns and consistently do campaigns. So find organizations that gives you a variety and gives your students a variety of things that they can look at. And then what they have to do is their first activity in this class is to conceptualize a campaign concept. What's the campaign going to be? We see campaigns on a daily basis. Everywhere we look is marketing. All the signage that we see, all the things that we see, whether it's online, whether it's on TV, whether it's on streaming services, that's all marketing. So this is where the students have to actually come up with an idea for that business on how to actually promote that business or promote a specific aspect of the business. So that's the first step. Then they actually have to develop the campaign. And developing a campaign takes a lot of time. It's always interesting when I've talked to people and have gone out and talked to businesses about doing campaigns, and they're like, oh, well, we just have a website or we've got a Facebook page. That's not a campaign. A campaign is something that needs to be clearly defined. You have to understand what the objectives are, who their target audience is. You can't just throw something up and, as I call it, hope for the best, because hope-based marketing just does not work. You have to actually have a plan. And this is where students can actually sit down and figure out and develop that plan. So when they're developing this campaign plan, they have to define the objectives. What are they trying to achieve? Okay. We have to be able to measure success, especially in this market of tight budgets. You have to be able to justify being able to get the dollars for that campaign. And you have to teach students to be able to do that and understand that. So in order to do that, you have to be able to define the objectives. Then they can select the target audience. It's going to be very different for each type of campaign. Okay. Define what message. That message is going to be tied to whatever target audience they select. Select the specific communication channels, and we'll go through and highlight a lot of the channels that are available. And there's always new channels being added. They actually have to create the content in this course. So it's not just about developing a campaign and writing a paper. It's actually creating the content. We're talking about creating ads, creating commercials, creating positioning statements. They actually have to create all that content. They have to create a budget. It's really interesting. If you do a little bit of research, you'll find that not a lot of people understand how to develop a budget, even in business. And many marketing people will say, well, what do I need to know how to budget for? Well, you have to be able to budget for a campaign. So it's really important that they understand how to develop a budget. And then how are they going to measure that success to see, did I achieve those objectives? So that's the first step in this course. And this is really where students need to spend a lot of time in understanding the business that you've brought into the classroom so that they can clearly develop a campaign that is going to be successful for that specific type of business. So the next step they do is What communication channels? We all have lots of various communication channels to choose from. Today, a lot of people go, like I stated earlier, directly to social media or directly online, but there's so many options, and we're so bombarded with digital technology today that sometimes we tend to tune it out. So it's getting harder and harder for marketers to actually get their message out. And you're starting to see in some of the research that's out there that some print media, as well as direct marketing coming into our mailboxes every day, is becoming more effective because we're not as bombarded with the advertisements as we are with digital technologies and everything that we use in the digital world today. So here you have to select their communication. So they have to say, okay, which communication channels do I want to use? And I'll give you a good example here. Everybody thinks social media and digital is the way to go. And I had one course where I had a nonprofit come in. One of the organizations was a nonprofit. And the students put together a great marketing campaign. I mean, it was very thorough. They thought it out. They decided that digital was going to be the way to go for their plan, their marketing campaign. They were totally shocked when the vice president of marketing for that particular organization came in and told them that they had done a great job on the campaign, but unfortunately it would have never reached the target audience they had, because many of the individuals who they're reaching for this campaign don't use digital technologies. So that's why really teaching the students to understand, and the company and the organization, as well as what their audience is really important when you're trying to decide which communication channels to select. So that's why teaching them all of these pieces. Now, this course is not here to teach you how to do public relations or how to do direct marketing, because StuKent has, books on all of those, and they have courseware on all of those areas. What this course does is it takes all of those pieces and puts them together. So you've got a public relations piece, and you've got a direct marketing piece, and you've got a digital marketing, and you have social media. You have all of those components. And what this course is doing is helping the students put it all together and to see how it all melds together within an organization to be able to develop a campaign that is successful. Okay, so here's the various channels. Okay, we don't often think about, we sometimes think about, we think about public relations and we think about digital marketing or direct, but what we tend to forget is there's so many options even within those channels that students have to choose from. Now, they're not going to choose all of these, okay? But what they want to do is you want to guide them to pick out which ones are going to work best in the campaign that they're trying to put together and with what they're trying to achieve with their objectives. Will public relations even be a part of it? Maybe. It depends. It depends on what they're trying to do. They might, the campaign may be to work with a nonprofit to gain awareness for an upcoming event they're having. Well, then you might want to do some community relations and press releases from a public relations perspective. You also might want to do some digital marketing. Would you probably do print media? Well, it's hard to say. It depends on where that audience is and what you're trying to achieve. So these are all the decisions that students need to make. And what they don't realize is they have all of these options. It's really interesting when developing this course, you find out more and more that certain generations look at certain things. So for instance, our younger generations will tend to look at more digital, and they tend to forget that there's more traditional options of direct marketing really still work out there, or even broadcast media. I know nowadays, with all of the new technologies, we don't have to watch advertisements, we can skip things, but then technology is also forcing us to watch some of those because we want to go watch a video online on YouTube, but we have to watch an ad before then. So broadcast media is still there. But what's important for students to understand when they're developing these is that using a combination of traditional and digital is much better approach, because you can actually get a wider audience to achieve the success that you're trying to achieve with your campaign. So here's where the students seem to really have liked this course, And what they do, they actually have to create the content. So now they've come up with a plan, they've selected a target audience, they know what they want to do, they've determined their communication channels that they want to select and use. Now they actually have to create the content. So that means in the courses that I put together and what I've asked them to do is that means they have to write a blog post. And this isn't just a group project. It may be a group working together on a campaign, but each individual within that group has to write an individual blog post on a topic that's related to that organization. They have to design a digital ad. They each have to write a press release. As a group, they create a brochure, because brochures, companies still use them. Even if they're just online, they still use them. They could design a direct mail piece, because direct mail is becoming, more important in this world of being over use of technology, let's just say. And then have them create a commercial or design a website. How would they design a website? Maybe they need to go out, they could actually go and look at a website and just, if a company has one, and make recommendations. I had one group of students who actually went out to the organization's website, made recommendations to them on what they needed to change. And the company made the changes, and they saw that their interaction on their website actually increased. So it's really amazing what the students can do when you give them the opportunities to create this. So I have a question for you. So we can put this in the chat box. What other IMC assignments would you provide to your students if you wanted to give them a real world experience? Like I said, I talked about press releases and blog posts and digital ads. What types of things might you want to include in your course? Like to see some of the answers that you might have, or some of the ideas you might have to include in your course to help your students become more astute at what actually needs to be done in an IMC class. The other thing you want to do is, what these assignments do for students is they give them something that they can actually walk into a organization with once they graduate and say, here's what I've done. I've written a press release. Here it is. I've written blog posts. I've developed advertisements. I've developed a commercial. I actually had students who were going for internships, and they would come to me and they'd say, Professor Law, we're not really sure what we want to do. I've got this opportunity for an internship, but I have to write and submit 2 writing samples. And they were all nervous because they didn't know what to write about. And so what I would tell them and say, well, you wrote a press release in this course, right? And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, you wrote a blog post, right? Yeah. So what they would do is they would then go and they would say, okay, utilize those activities and those submissions for your writing concepts. And I had numerous students who actually utilized them and actually ended up getting the internships. So I told them, go back, make changes to them based on some feedback that I gave them, and submit them. And they ended up getting the jobs. So what this course is doing is it's helping students create a portfolio that they can have when they walk out the door to show what type of work they can actually do for a business, because people want to see what you can do. A resume can give you a lot of information, but a resume doesn't really tell you what you can do. But if you show them a commercial you put together, you show them blog posts that you wrote, you show them a website you designed, that actually shows them what you can actually do. And that's what's going to help students and help to break down that disconnect between what businesses are looking for and what education organizations are providing. So the next step we have to do is they have to develop a campaign budget. As I stated earlier, it can be very difficult to create a budget because sometimes you're not given a marketing budget. I know in some of the companies I've worked for, especially small organizations, I was never given a budget. It was like, okay, if I wanted to do something, I had to come up with a plan for what I wanted to do, the campaign I wanted to run, and then go submit it and try to get approval for it. That meant I had to detail every single thing out that I was going to do in that campaign to be able to get the money for it. Okay. Even if you're given a budget, even if an organization gives you an annual budget to work with, you still need to do this because you only have so much money in a year to work with. And students need to understand, I only have so much money. How am I going to most effectively spend that? That's where developing the budget is going to help. In the simulation that's tied to this, they actually have to do this. They have to look at their budget and decide, where am I going to spend my money throughout the year? So you're given a budget. Where am I going to spend the money throughout the year? But you also have to understand what it's going to take to develop that campaign. So for instance, here, we have to look at, okay, we're going to develop an email campaign. So we have to create a template. Okay. We also have to make some updates to the website so that we can actually track the information that's coming from the campaign. We're also going to create some advertisements that we're going to run. We're going to do some pay-per-click ads on Facebook. We're going to develop a video that we're going to run to actually get more people interested in our campaign. We're going to write some press releases. Each one of these has a cost associated with them. So that's why students need to understand that each one of the items has a cost associated with them so that they can actually go out and create a budget, either submit it to their boss, or when their boss comes back to them and said, well, were you within budget? And how much was the return on investment? You could say, well, here's what it cost to basically develop the campaign. Here's the amount of money that we brought in that we can show because we measured the success of that campaign. Now we can show them, here's the return on investment. So the budget's really important and students need to be able to understand that. And sometimes this is often left out of a marketing course because we don't think about budgets. Then they have to create a calendar. Can't create a budget. You can't create, not a budget, but you can't create a campaign overnight. It takes time. So what you have to do is you have to say, okay, these are all the various activities. Students need to understand all the details and then say, okay, I'm going to launch it on a specific date and then build the calendar back from that to understand when do I need to start building this campaign and what do I need to do in order to meet that specific launch date. Okay. We've been doing that here at StuCant when all these books get written. They have calendars and we have to say, okay, the launch is here. Then we have to go back and say, okay, when do we start writing the books or putting the campaigns together to promote them? This is the same thing that we have to do in this course, is create that campaign calendar. Once again, it helps students to understand not only what they need to do, but then they can also utilize this to show their managers that this is all the things that we've done. This was the timeline. We met our timelines, especially if they're given a specific deadline. And then they have to be able to figure out, how am I going to measure success? Well, success takes us all the way back to the very beginning of what were my objectives. One of the students that what they tend to forget is that everything is tied back to those objectives. So we have to make sure that everything that is included in these activities continues to tie back to what were the objectives for the campaign. And so when you get to this point, they have to say, okay, what were the objectives? How am I going to measure the success of those objectives based on what I have designed throughout the campaign? So, you select the specific metrics. You want to determine a time frame. How long are you going to measure the campaign for? Is the campaign going to run for 2 months? Is it going to run for 6 months? Are you going to run it for 2 months and maybe reevaluate it? These are all the things that students need to understand how to do. Okay. Then you want to be able to, once you've decided that, how are they going to monitor those results? There's lots of marketing automation technology out there that students can utilize to actually monitor those results. And then create a dashboard that makes it easy for management to understand it. Sometimes the disconnect in a business between what marketers can do and what business is looking for is that they don't talk the same language. Marketers talk marketing language and financial people talk finance. Okay. What there needs to be is a connection between those two. And that's what this course will do, is it will teach them how to bring together and have marketing students talk in financial terms to the CEO, the head of finance, to even to their chief marketing officer, so that they understand what the return on investment is and why this campaign has been successful. So it teaches them, once again, the language of let's talk financial language. Let's not just talk marketing language, because that's another disconnect that this course will actually help to bring together. So, a little bit of feedback that we've gotten over the years from teaching this course. And this is student feedback, and this comes straight out of the students. At the end of the semester, we all know as professors that students give us we have to get evaluations. And this is some of the qualitative data that we've received over the years regarding this course. A lot of skills I've learned in this class have been priceless, and I can take them with me into the future business world. The practical approach allowed us to use our knowledge in a real life setting. Learning actual professional applications of the material was great. The courseware provided a connection between the classroom and the real life work experience. That really was key, that word connection. It's bringing those two together so that we can see we're connecting now the education world with the business world. Okay. Love the content of this course and how it applies to the real world. So students really felt that they had the opportunity to be able to now go out and get a job in a marketing position that they would be looking for, because they actually had some real world experience that they could rely on to make them successful in what they're going to be doing moving forward into, their new positions. So here's some business feedback. Actually, this was one of the companies that I had used a few years ago, and the actually owner of the company took the actual brochure that the students put together and posted it on their LinkedIn page and gave a shout out to this class, saying thanking them. And she was actually going to utilize this particular brochure in her marketing activities. So businesses like this, businesses will give you that opportunity to have your students work with them to develop a campaign that will not only help the business, it also helps the students to get that experience that they need. So it's really, getting back to this question of, was it an education or a business problem? It actually helps to solve a little bit of both. It helps to solve a little bit of the education problem, but it also helps to solve some of that business problem. Because what businesses learn then is they learn that they need to be very clear on what they're looking for. And so when they work together, you get a better understanding of, okay, here's what we're teaching in the education world. Here's what I need from the business world. Let's learn from each other by putting programs like this in place where students can actually go out, work with businesses, and the businesses can learn from the students to understand a little bit more about the education world and how we can meld those two together. So this was just some examples of some of the deliverables that some of the students over the years. This was actually a startup company called IQ times 10. They do actual allowing people to actually learn new job skills through the use of video games. Students actually loved this one. They were all over it because it was about video games. So they came up with some really interesting advertisements and brochures that could be used. In fact, when this went back to the founder of the company, he was totally blown away by what the students did, because he felt that they really understood something that he thought was going to be very technical and difficult for the students to understand. But yet he realized that they understood it right away and were able to develop some deliverables that would be valuable to his organization. This was another one of, it was a advertisement that was put together once again for another deliverable. This was it was a GPS tracking software for actually for firefighters, so that you knew exactly where your equipment was within a fire. I mean, coming out of California, fires are huge there, and when you send equipment out, whether it be an airplane or whether it be a fire truck, any kind of an emergency vehicle, you need to know where those vehicles are. And this software actually did this. And once again, the company was quite pleased with what they saw as valuable documents that could be used by their organization, and how well the students understood exactly what the company was doing and how they clearly articulated the message and came up with some very creative ways to do that. Once again, another brochure. This was for the firefighting. This was a brochure they put together, and it was highlighting the safety features for firefighting. And then this was, and once again, a couple of ads that were put together that ran online. So these were more of the digital ads that students put together, but it got the point across. They were simple, to the point, they were engaging, and the company organization, they liked what was put together. They appreciated the fact that, once again, the students understood the value of the product that they were promoting. This was of course, some coming out of Southern California, got to have a skateboard company, right? So this was another one where the students really found creative ways to grab the attention of individuals through the advertisements that they put together. This one here on the far right actually focused on Earth Day and how important, because this particular company, one of their selling points was that they didn't use any paint or stains on their skateboards. It was all natural. And so that's why they put the focus on using it for Earth Day. So once again, students are here. Not only are they learning about the company, but they're also tying it in with other things that are going on within the world around us. For example, Earth Day. So what's the value that this course is going to bring? It increases class engagement. I found engagement to increase significantly because students felt like they were actually doing something that they viewed as valuable, and they were excited to be able to work with an organization. It increased their motivation. They wanted to learn more. Students would they would get their groups and they would go out and visit the organizations and do tours of their facilities so that they could really understand what the organization was all about. There's greater knowledge retention. We all know that if we do something, we retain things better. We retain more when we do it rather than just read about it. It enhanced creativity. People had to think, how do I be creative? A good example was the one, here's Earth Day, and here's an organization that's focusing on using natural woods and not any stains or dyes. So they had this idea of putting those two together. So there was an enhanced creativity there. It also increased their awareness of what was going on, not only in the business environment, but just the environmental situation that we have around us today. And finally, it enhances their career prospects. As I stated, some of the students used some of the items that they created in this course as their portfolio when they went out looking for jobs or waiting for internships. Because if you can show what you can do, someone's going to be much more impressed with something that you can show them rather than just something that you write on a resume. So this gives students the opportunity to show what they can actually do. So let's open it up for questions. I think I've talked enough about here. So do we want to open up for questions, or are there any questions that have gone in the chat, Paul, that maybe we need to address?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Diane. That was awesome. And we've had a lot of great questions come through, and I'll just read some of them for you. Someone asked, how would you recommend I approach preparing to teach this course
Your first
if
time
it is my
teaching?
first time teaching?
Is it if it's your first time teaching, and to be honest, when I developed this course, it was my first time teaching. And what I did was I relied on what I knew as an individual working in the business world, or just in what I know in general about what's going on in the world around us, and making it relevant to what's going on in the world around you. So the course was designed so that it's given you a lot of examples. It's given you a lot of templates. It's given you a lot of questions. You've got questions that you can use as far as tests or quizzes. It's given you how to put some of the assignments together. So even if this is the first time you're teaching it, the course was designed to give you a lot of that. And then as you teach it, the more you teach it, you'll find some other things that you as an instructor will learn from those, and then build into your course each semester as you teach it.
That's great. Thank you. Another question is there a common aha moment for students when it comes to the growing importance of traditional marketing versus digital
Usually
marketing?
it comes in the situation when it'll come in two situations. For instance, I gave one example when the vice president came in and basically said, you got a great digital strategy here, but a majority of our people aren't using digital. That was a huge aha moment for students to realize that, wait, there's a combination. The other thing you'll realize when you run the simulation is you'll find that in the simulation, you'll find that you will get better results from a campaign when you run a little bit of traditional and a little bit of digital together. If you go one direction or the other, you tend to not get the best results. That's why you do a little bit. And if you think about it, one of the things, someone made a comment to me one time about, well, why do organizations continue to advertise? Well, first of all, it's out of sight, out of mind. I mean, Coca-Cola is a good example. They have $1 billion worth of marketing budget. But why do they continue to market to us? We all know Coke. The fact is they continue because we want to stay, they want us to be first, us to be the first option that we're going to select when we're looking for a beverage. What's going to be the first thing we're going to think about? That's why they do that over and over again. And that's an aha moment for students because they don't realize, they think, oh, well, they've advertised, why do we have to do it again? Well, there's a reason, because you have to stay in front of your audience consistently. Otherwise, they're going to forget. And that's something that students have found as an aha moment.
Thanks for sharing that. A couple of people have asked if you have a favorite assignment or resource from the courseware.
I would say that the assignment that I always liked was creating a brochure, because when you create the brochure, it really shows how the students understand the business. You can create an ad. It's pretty simple to create an ad and come up with some, interesting things to do in an ad. But when you can clearly articulate what that business is in a very condensed way, that really shows that the students took the time to learn about the business and understand how to articulate it in a way that's going to resonate with maybe someone who doesn't know as much about the business. So to me, I always enjoy the brochure aspect of it.
Great. And we also want to offer everyone here a free copy of the syllabus for this course. So we're going to pop a link up in the chat right now that you can download that if you'd like to do that. Another question that we've had, Diane, is what are the top 3 skills students need to develop to stand out in the workforce?
You need to learn how to write. One thing that marketing people tend to forget, or students will think, oh, I don't have to write. Marketing is about writing, because you have to be able to communicate. The biggest thing in any organization, I don't care, any organization of any size, is communication and poor communication, okay? It's so important. And communication comes down to, how do I clearly articulate what I'm trying to say? A lot of people can write, but sometimes if you're not writing in a way that's clearly articulating your message, it's not going to come across the way you want it to. And we can look at, thousands of examples that are out there of organizations that created bad content and it came back to hit them hard because it wasn't received the way they felt that it would be received. So I would say writing is number 1. They also have to feel confident in speaking. You need to be able to not only write about what you're doing, but you also have to be able to speak. So in order to be able to articulate that, because marketing, you need to be able to go out and talk to people about it. I always used to tell the individuals that worked for me in the organizations that I managed, I would say, you cannot sit behind a desk and do marketing. You have to be out there in front of people, talking to people, learning about the business, learning about your customers, because that's how you're going to be able to do that. That means you have to be able to get out and talk to them. So being able to basically get up and give a presentation or go out and have a meeting and sit down and talk to someone, that's really one of the second skills that is really important to be a marketer. And the other one too is about being flexible. you have to be able to be flexible, because you might run a campaign that you realize is, you know what, this isn't working. I'm not getting what the results that I wanted. So what I need to do is I need to be able to shift. So you can't be so rigid that you can't change. So if you can write, and if you can go out and talk to people and build relationships and have good communication skills, and you can be flexible, you'll be successful in marketing.
Those are great answers, Diane. As someone with a career in marketing, I agree wholeheartedly with each one of those. We've had a couple of questions with people asking about design software. Any design software recommendations in case we don't have any graphic design background? And as a tag along to that question, how do students handle that when they're on a budget?
Canva is a great resource that a lot of students have used. So I would say Canva is probably the #1 resource that a lot of students use, because you can get a free version that gives you some templates that they can use if they're not a designer. Normally what have happened, and what was always interesting in the classes that I taught, was what I found is that I always had a few design majors in my classes. So I think what they were getting was they wanted to understand how their designs would fit into an actual campaign. And so what I would do is, if I was breaking up groups within the classroom, I would look to make sure, okay, if I had a design major, or if I had 2 or 3 design majors, I made sure they were on different teams so that there was actually some capability of design. But for those teams that didn't, they came up with some great designs, and you would be really surprised how many students who aren't design majors are very creative. But like I said, the most useful tool that I've found that students use the most was Canva.
Canva is definitely a great tool. Frank asked, has AI affected student writing abilities?
I wouldn't say that AI has. I will say that texting has. And because in texting, we tend to shorten things. We tend to make assumptions about, what we're saying that it's going to come across. And that's where you'll find the biggest problems. It's not necessarily artificial intelligence. It's basically the texting, because it's not putting a complete thought out. And once again, getting back to the ability to be able to write. You have to be able to write out a full sentence. And the other thing too about, as far as writing and texting, is the use of acronyms. Acronyms is a big problem. And I always tell my students that acronyms mean different things in different industries. So for instance, CMO in the marketing world means Chief Marketing Officer, but CMO in the healthcare industry is Chief Medical Officer. Computer-aided design, CAD, is, in an engineering world, that's how they design things. But in police and fire agencies, CAD systems are computer-aided dispatching systems. So when you use those, depending on, once again, what industry you're focused on and what business you're looking to work with, acronyms can create a problem, because they may mean different things to different people. So what I always say is, if you're going to use them, make sure that you define them, and that's where students will trip up, because they forget that acronyms can mean different things to different people.
That's a great answer. There was a lot of commenting going on in the chat. The people definitely resonated with that, and even threw in emojis, how that's kind of changed writing styles also. So Diane, I want to thank you. That's all the questions that we've had come in. This has been an amazing webinar. You've done a great job presenting and giving us this deep dive into your courseware. I want to make an offer to everyone who's on here today. We are holding a special walkthrough on August 3rd of the simulation that coordinates with IMC. So we have Mimic IMC, and on August 3rd, we're going to do a walkthrough through that. So we want to encourage you. We've thrown up a link here in the chat. Sign up and register to attend with us. And as a little incentive, anyone who signs up today, you're going to be entered for a $100 Amazon gift card. Okay, so sign up for it, and maybe you'll win a gift card. When we have the actual walkthrough, we'll have some giveaways also on that. So please sign up and do that. I want to, before we leave today, there's a couple more things I want to do. First of all, I want to show a quick video that our video team produced about the simulation that just will give you a little 1-minute overview of the simulation. So we'll put that on right now.
If you're a busy educator, you know how challenging it can be to provide students with opportunities to work on real-world integrated marketing campaigns. Teach your students to target specific audiences, develop effective positioning statements, and combine diverse marketing methods into a unified communication strategy with Mimic IMC. In this simulation, students will take on the role of a marketing manager at Bowie Supply Co., a fictitious bag company, where they will work on an integrated marketing campaign to increase the revenue of Bowie's smart luggage line. Over 8 unique rounds, students will analyze target market personas, select where to target audiences in the marketing funnel, implement the correct marketing mix for selected audiences, allocate quarterly budgets, and analyze metrics to determine the best campaign strategies. Mimic IMC is packed with resources, and it provides students with individualized feedback for each assignment and automatically grades their work, saving educators hours of prep time. This simulation can be used in online, in-person, or hybrid classrooms, and it pairs with the integrated marketing communications Building the Brand courseware written by Diane Law. Bring engaging, hands-on learning into your classroom with Mimic IMC. If you'd like to learn more about this revolutionary simulation, fill out the form to request free instructor access today and prepare your students to build cohesive, consistent, and impactful integrated marketing campaigns.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you, Diane, for taking the time to be with us today. When you leave and exit this webinar, you're going to be redirected when we shut down to a short survey. If you would please take just 2 minutes to do that survey for us, it will help us improve and do a better job as we present these webinars to you in the future.
I just have one comment. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to be able to do that. And if any of you have any questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn to me.
Thanks for that. And we threw up a link so that you can connect with Diane if you'd like to do that. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us. Please check out the courseware, sign up for the demo and the walkthrough that we're going to do next week. And if you would please be so kind as to fill out the survey, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.